Over the past few years, I've been building up all my social media profiles. I've got 1.2 million followers on TikTok. I've got 650,000 followers on Instagram. I've got 1.1 million on Facebook and around 280,000 on Snapchat. The only one I haven't done is YouTube, but obviously I've started doing that now. But having done that and built up that kind of portfolio of followers, I have pretty good experiences and a lot of knowledge that I want to share, especially for those people that want to know what it's like on the other side being behind the screen or being an influencer, because most people don't actually see the reality of it. They just see what the influencer wants them to see. And so I'm going to answer a bunch of hard-hitting questions today related to fame, money, the challenges, sacrifices, and I'm going to go into detail with each of the questions that you might want to know about. It might help you if you're wanting to become an influencer yourself. A lot of people are wanting to become influencers nowadays. Or if you're just curious, if you're just wanting to know, what it is like, whether it's worth it, whether it is all that it seems behind the camera, because it's made to be quite a glorious thing, but there are quite a lot of things which are less glorious than are advertised. So I'll start off with fame. The first question is, how did you grow your following so quickly on these platforms? For me, I had a very simple formula. As I started off, I kind of tried loads of different things, and I wanted to see what worked best. And I eventually came down to a very simple formula of innovating on previous success, which is pretty much what TikTok and short form content is built on nowadays. It's built on trends and previous success. Most of the stuff that you'll see on the For You page, on a lot of the short form apps now, is based off of this very simple formula. But when I first started out, it wasn't as clear cut. I'm not claiming that I invented it, but it's very much shaped into that sort of thing. So I was basically innovating off of something that did successfully, which is pretty much the standard now. It's pretty much what everyone does now. And it's quite simple once you've gotten into the flow of it. I guess like with most things really, once you've tried it several times, it becomes kind of clockwork, and it very much did become clockwork quite quickly as I was plodding along with it. So I think it's very simple for someone to get started with it. You just need to have a strategy and a formula that is successful, because my formula as I was starting out was still kind of being molded. It was still being put together, and it did take a while before I kind of refined it. And then once I'd had my formula of like creating content, it was easy to replicate and just keep doing and doing and doing and doing. The thing with social media, especially the short form platforms, is they're constantly changing as well. So it can become quite difficult, and that formula can be tested at times, and it has to constantly be changed. That's what I found was, obviously I started in 2021. TikTok was still very early in its infancy then. We're now in 2024. TikTok has fundamentally changed. In fact, a lot of the short form platforms have fundamentally changed a lot more since when I started, because it's become a lot more competitive. When I got into it, I was very lucky. I saw the opportunity, but I was very lucky that there wasn't that many people posting on social media, so there was a lot more room for my content to be shown to a wider reach of people. Nowadays, it's a lot less because there's more people posting. It's just simple, like supply and demand kind of thing. But yeah, that's how I grew so quickly. I just stuck to my formula, and then I was so consistent with it. It was a combination of frequency and consistency. I was posting like 5 times a day on TikTok when I was first starting out. For the first year, I was just constantly posting 5 times a day, 5 different posts a day. I kept burning out quite a lot, obviously, because that's a lot. But it was like I was in this mindset of I need to make this work. I was like, I got to the age of 21 in 2021. I was like, I really want to do social media. I want to do content, and I'd been delaying it for so long by that point, and I'd kind of just reached that breaking point where I was like, I've got to give it my all now, or I'm never going to do it. and I just did it. I just got on with it. I just plowed right through it. I was like, right, I'll post as much as I humanly can and as much as I humanly need to, and I'll do whatever I need to in order to make this work. And it did. It did. I mean, thank God for it. But yeah, so you have to really, if you're wanting to grow on any of the platforms, I guess even YouTube as well, really, you have to be committed, so that you're consistent with it, but you also have to be very eager to want to keep improving, want to keep learning, want to keep doing it better. As my formula kept improving and getting better, I was more able to compete with the growing competition into the social media market. At what point did you realize you were famous online? Oh, I hate the word famous. I really hate it. It's kind of cringe. I find that word kind of cringe, but I'm going to say social media famous, because famous and social media fame is two different things. Like, famous is like the A-list celebrities and actors that if you saw in the street, 90% of people would recognize. But social media fame is a whole different thing, you know. But in that regard, I'd say the moment I realized I was social media famous was when my friends and family started finding out that I was posting on social media, because I didn't actually tell anyone. I was like, when I first started out, I was so worried that other people's opinions was gonna put me off from even doing it, that I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna post and then I'm gonna let the rest take care of itself. You know, I'm not gonna tell anyone I'm posting. I'm just gonna get on with it and let the results speak for themselves. And when I started posting, it took me probably about a month and a half, 2 months before people in my life were like, wait, I just saw you on my For You page. Wait, what? What are you posting on social media? I'm like, oh yeah, sorry, I forgot to tell you about that one. It was like, it was an awkward moment, but it was better than me having told them before I even started posting. Which I think's key, really, because a lot of people get nervous, and I'm the most shy and introverted and nervous person in the world. And at the time, I was like, if one person even says, "Oh, that doesn't sound like a good idea," or "I don't think you can do that," I knew that that was going to throw me off enough that I wasn't going to be motivated to get on with it. So I was like, I'm just not going to tell anyone. I told one friend, but I knew that one friend was like he's a really close friend of mine. I knew that he was not going to say anything, and he was going to be 100% supportive. But I've got a whole story about that. But yeah, I just didn't want to tell anyone. And even once people did start seeing me on the For You page, and started following me, I still refused to tell anyone. I was like, you know what, it will naturally reach that point where people will know that I'm posting. And I think that's the point when I knew I was famous, when people that I knew were seeing me on their phones without me telling them to go, oh, search me up, which is kind of a validating feeling, knowing that your content is algorithm approved, sort of thing, where it's gone, okay, this is good enough for us to just show it to this many people, this many millions of people. I was like, that's the most gratifying thing, really, and I thought it was the better way to approach it. I guess another side of it, when I realised I was famous, I hate saying that, but was when people in the street would recognise me, or say hello, or things like that, or take a photo. I think that was another moment I started to realise, but it wasn't like it wasn't an overnight thing. It wasn't an overnight immediately, which at the time I thought, oh, there'll be like one post, and then I'll be like overnight, and it was not. That's a very naive way of thinking about it, but at the time I thought, I'll post one video, and it'll go viral, and that'll be me set. And I posted a lot of viral content, and it was not one piece which set me up. It was one piece after the other, which eventually culminated almost like in a compounding effect. And that's why I say before, when you're trying to grow a following, you got to stay consistent. even if you do get a banger video, I say banger, a high view video, a viral video, that does not mean you're set. You've then got to keep that consistency. You've got to keep learning, you've got to keep adapting. Because the viral content that I was posting back in 2021, 2022, would not go viral now. It's like, times have changed. Like, social media evolves, people's interests evolve. And so you also have to keep being able to evolve if you want to have a long-term impact. Yeah, I went off on a bit of a tangent there. But yeah, that's the point. I knew I was famous when my friends and family started to see me on social media, which was interesting. It was interesting. I didn't have any negative experiences from my family members, or none to my face anyways, or friends. How has your life changed since becoming well known on social media? This is probably one of the biggest misconceptions, because my life has not changed at all. Well, my work life has, because I'm able to post on social media and create a career out of it and a business out of it. But my personal life hasn't changed at all. I mean, the 1% that's changed is occasionally getting recognized, but it doesn't really make much of a fundamental difference for me. The thing that did change was literally what I was doing as a passion, as a career. That did change my life. I mean, I think a lot of people kind of assume that if when you become an influencer, you start becoming social media famous, that your life fundamentally changes. And in many regards, it can do, but it's more as a byproduct of what you're doing on social media, not actually just posting. So you posting on social media just by itself isn't going to change your life. And that's what I was doing for a very long period of time. It's when you start posting and you get that audience, and then you start doing stuff because you have that levity and that leverage to be able to do stuff, like earning more money, then that changes your life. Or using that audience to, I don't know, set up an event or something, or whatever. And so for me, it hasn't really changed my life in the personal life sense. I guess I'd say it's personal development though. Like I said before, I'm a very shy person. And confidence was not something I had going into this, personal confidence, and I hated seeing myself on camera, and I kind of just sucked it up and just went, right, I've just got to deal with it. I've got to get over this hurdle, and I'm fine. And I still don't like seeing myself on camera. Like, I can see myself on camera right here, and I refuse to look. But it's just because some people are just self-conscious, and I'm one of those people. And overdoing this, I've managed to kind of break down hurdles where they become a lot bigger than they actually are. And that's been one of my biggest things, and it started with the camera. That's all it started with, was the camera. So I knew as soon as I could get over that hurdle, I was like, wait, I can get over this other insecurity and this other insecurity, and it kind of built a lot more confidence. I think posting on social media, you do get a lot more confident as a person, generally speaking. Do people recognize you in public, and how do you handle that? So yeah, I have obviously been recognized in public quite a few times. The way I handle it, I try and be as nice and pleasant as possible, because I know that if you're seeing me on the street or somewhere and you have the confidence to come up to me and go, I think I recognize you, or oh, you're NDA, or oh, you're Dan, or something like that. I fully respect that, because obviously you're watching my stuff, but also you're coming up to me, and it's a nerve-wracking thing to come up to technically a stranger and start a conversation and go, oh, I know you from this or this, or asking for a photo. So I try and be really, really nice and kind. I find it very nerve-wracking, and I get very anxious. I've got tremendous anxiety about it, but that's just another hurdle that I'm trying to get over. I think if you're quite an anxious person, that is something you need to think about if you are thinking of going into social media, because chances are, if you're showing your face, and people recognize you, they're likely to come up and say hello because obviously they like what you're doing, and that's awesome. And that's a great byproduct of doing this. I love that aspect. I, in fact, do love the fact that people come up and say hello. I internally love it, but I'm also very anxious because that's just kind of like embedded into me, and it takes a lot of work to kind of get rid of that anxiety. But it's better that someone comes up to me and goes, "Hello, I know you from social media or something," than someone like kind of like peering at you or staring at you from the distance, which I've had quite a few times. I've had more people staring and glaring and peering at me than I've had come up to me, because a lot of people are nervous, and that, I think that contributes to the anxiety. But I get that because a lot of people are nervous to come up to someone that they think they might recognize, but they're not too confident, because a lot of people that have came up to me, they're very nervous that they've got the wrong person. Like they came up and they wanted to verify that I am who they think I am instead, because if it was just a random person, it's very embarrassing for them. So I understand that aspect. For me, it's very nerve-wracking, but it's something that can be overcome. You know, it can be defeated. I just haven't put a lot of effort into dealing with that anxiety yet. But bear in mind, I also, just a caveat, even though I've got these millions and millions and millions of followers on social media, I don't get recognized that much in reality. It's very few and far between. It's very random the times that I do get recognized. Sometimes I'll get recognized when I'm just buying a meal deal at Sainsbury's. Other times I'll get recognized, like one time I got recognized when I was going on a holiday where it was a wedding in Cyprus, and me and my family were all going, and we were traveling out, and we landed in Cyprus, and it's all me and my like 10, 15 members of my family, and we're on this coach coming from the airport to the resort where the wedding is going to be at, and I'm just sat there. I'm just sat on this coach, just chilling, just minding my own business in my own world. And I get off the bus, and my cousin, he's like, there was these people like 5 rows behind you. They were like peering, and they were looking on their phone, like, is that him? Trying to see if that was you. And I leant over to them and I went, yeah, that's my cousin. That's my cousin. That is who you think it is. And they got very nervous. Meanwhile, I'm just like, wait, what? Like, I'm in my own world. I'm not even noticing what's going on. Yet, like, 5 rows behind me, these 2 people that know what I do, and they watch my content, and they're trying to confirm that it was me. It was really cool, but also completely, like, throwing me off. But it's really funny. Loads of weird and random times that I'll get recognized. But, yeah, it's always a good laugh. It's always a good laugh. What's the best part about having so many followers? Personally, for me, and this is something that I went into social media with the intent. The reason I like having so many followers, or the intention is to have so many followers, is because I really feel for cultural impact. Now, this is what I mean by cultural impact, because that kind of doesn't really mean anything in a word. But I like kind of impacting communities, like having an influence on certain industries and communities. So, for example, the finance community or the GTA 5 community, like things that I'm passionate about. I like having an audience that is also passionate about that, and then having that influence on that community by what I post. So it's like cultivating, being part of something. That's probably one of the biggest things that I love about having so many followers, is that ability, because it's difficult to do when you don't have any followers, because you don't really have, when you're posting something, not a lot of people are going to see it, so the impact isn't as much. But luckily I've spent the past few years building up that audience that I can now do that. I have the opportunity to be able to do that, which is amazing. I like having that impact, and that's kind of the thing that keeps me going in this industry, that I just get motivated by, is doing that, going into a community, culturally impacting it by whatever content I'm posting. And it's the best thing. I mean, a lot of people do it for money, and I think The money's a good part of it, and I'll obviously talk about money in a minute, but people kind of get lost in it. And I think they think, oh, I've got loads of followers, now I can just sell them everything. And it's just not that way. Like, this is social media. So people immediately turn off to that kind of thing. And also, do you really want to be known as the guy that, or gal that sold millions of units of this, that, and the other, instead of being known as the person that created this and it was so amazing that people were like revering it or something? Like, creating a really good piece of content is just like my bread and butter. I've been posting content on social media on YouTube since I was 13. Like, my first YouTube channel was a Smosh channel. At the time, Smosh was a really big comedy channel, and I wanted to do that. I was 13, so bear in mind, this was the worst humour imaginable. It wasn't even funny. But I really enjoyed it. Everything from the camera to the story and everything. And then since then, I created several other YouTube channels, done loads of other YouTube related stuff and content related stuff. And so it kind of feels very baked into me that I was to post content on social media and get followers. The use of getting those followers would be to create more cultural impact. I've never been particularly interested in making loads of money. Like, I'm not very good at it, and it's not something that wakes me up in the morning. But I feel like a lot of influencers kind of go down that path. And if you are going to be an influencer, I'd beg that the moment you get a few followers, you don't sell yourself out. Money's important, don't get me wrong. It's very, very important. In fact, that's one of the things that I have learned over the past few years is you have to be able to make money from this, because if you can't, then it fails. But there's kind of like a fine line. You don't want to overdo it, and you don't want to underdo it, because otherwise then you're living paycheck to paycheck and you're struggling to make ends meet. But you got to find a fine line between making money and being passionate about whatever you're creating. And I feel like especially a lot of the big influencers, a lot of mainstream influencers, are kind of getting addicted to the money part of it. They're losing sight of why they did it in the first place, the passion behind it, why they're enjoying it. And they're kind of getting lost, and instead they're just looking for the next payout or the next $1 million deal or whatever. And that is not what this is about. Money's good, but it's not everything, you know? I'd rather leave this planet having created some really great content that's going to pretty much stay forever than have made millions and millions and then, well, where's it going to go? Like, what's happening after I'm gone? It's not going to be with me anymore. But that's just my ethos. Maybe my opinions will change, but that's where I stand right now. I've tried my best to keep very level-headed in that regard. That's been always one of my things when going into this social media game, was to make sure that I keep as ethical as possible. Like, don't lose it in the madness, because you can lose it in the madness. Don't lose sight of ethics, what's right and what's wrong. And also respect the audience. You got to respect the audience big time. Because when you don't respect the audience, they will not respect you. And if they don't respect you, then what's the point in even doing any of this? Got to have a drink. But that's on fame. Since we're talking about money, we're going on to the money questions now. And the first one is, how do influencers like you make money on TikTok, Instagram, and Snapchat, and Facebook? Well, this is probably one of the biggest misconceptions that you're going to hear, because I barely make any money directly from Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, or TikTok. Now, I make a bit of money from TikTok ad revenue, but bear in mind, it is not what most people think. It is actually still a lot lower than what most people are presuming. Like, a lot of people are saying, like, you get $1 per 1,000 views on TikTok. Not the case. As someone that posts on TikTok, a veteran on TikTok, that my account is all clean and everything, no problems. And I was even posting in the most lucrative niche, the finance niche. I can tell you that that was not the case. I was not earning that kind of money. TikTok doesn't pay particularly well. Instagram doesn't actually pay at all. Instagram pays absolutely nothing. You don't get any ad revenue or whatsoever. You can get subscription things, but I tried them. They're not very good, in my opinion. Snapchat, you need to work on that. Sorry. Facebook pays a little bit of ad revenue, but that's even a fraction of what TikTok pays, so it's really, really low. And Snapchat, they do a weird thing where if you post a clip and it goes viral and it checks that criteria of going viral, they'll give you a $500 bonus. That's it. They'll just give you $500 into your account, which you can cash out. Now, the criteria of it going viral is a little bit iffy. Like, I think it's more up to Snapchat what they deem as, oh, this is a viral clip, we're going to give you the money. Because I've had clips on Snapchat which go viral and nada. Absolutely nothing. And then I've had other clips which I'm like, wait, but that got the same amount of views, but then that gives a payout. Overall, it's a bit confusing. So if I'm saying that you're barely going to earn any money from these platforms, how am I making money? How are influencers like me making money? Simple answer, sponsorships. Sponsorships are probably the biggest thing. When it comes to my personal finances on my social media side, 95% of my money, maybe even 99% of my money, comes from sponsorships alone. Like, the actual apps do not pay anything that you'd think they would. They're not cash cows at all. Not yet. I imagine at some point into the future, TikTok will start becoming financially competitive. But right now, it is all about sponsorships and brand deals. And the brand deals are pretty good. However, the problem is that a lot of brands are still trying to get used to TikTok and social media marketing. They've only just gotten used to advertising and paying influencers on YouTube, and now they're kind of trying to get used to short form content promotions, which is a whole different ball game. You watch a YouTube video and then you slot in an ad somewhere in it, and then you just pay for that fee, then that's a lot more predictable, because that YouTube video is likely to continue to get views and it's always going to be there, that ad. Short form ads and sponsorships do not run like that. Usually you're posting a whole entire clip on your account of just a sponsorship, and the likelihood is that most people, when they see that on the For You page, are going to swipe away, because like I said before, it's social media. People don't like being sold to, and that's probably one of the biggest things that these companies and brand deals are struggling with. They'll throw money at influencers like me, and then they get kind of thrown off when there's not these massive returns and there's not these massive views. And the simple answer is because people don't want to watch an ad on their For You page. Realistically, they don't want to watch an ad, and so they'll swipe right past it, which will lower the retention, and then you can say bye-bye to any reach on that video. And so it's kind of challenging making money on social media, because you don't make it from the platforms, and even the brand deals kind of become fickle because they're worried about spending their money. They don't want to spend their money. They're quite nervous about spending their money. So it can be quite difficult at times. I've had many occasions where I've gone several months without a brand deal, and then one month I'll have like 5 brand deals reach out and they're like, right, we need this posted within the next week and a half, 2 weeks, which is kind of insane, really, because it doesn't make it feel very professional. Whereas, like, I imagine it's a bit more different on YouTube, where it's a lot more scheduled out. But yeah, influencers making money is mainly through brand deals. And if you're looking to become an influencer, just expect to be dealing with brand deals as your primary source of income. Either that, or you build yourself a business which you then promote through your social media, which I did attempt to do, actually, on multiple occasions. And even though they went successfully, as I mentioned earlier in the video, I'm really bad at selling things. I'm really bad at making money. I'm really good at managing money, investing it. but I'm really bad at trying to sell people something. Like, that's probably one of my worst failings, and that doesn't really help if you're trying to grow a business, you know. But if you are able to sell stuff, social media and becoming an influencer becomes a lot easier, like really easy, because then you can create your own business and then sell that through social media and make a really decent amount of money. I know a lot of influencers now are leaning down that path. We're kind of seeing that path being forged, where brand deals are kind of being seen as a bit too short term and fickle, and you're looking at these influencers that set up businesses and they promote their stuff through their social medias. And not only I believe in it because I've done it. Not only is it ethical because you're selling something that you have created, so if they don't like the product, they come right to you. Whereas if you're promoting another business, say I promote like Coca-Cola or something, and you have a bad experience, you can't blame me. I'm just being paid by Coca-Cola, you know? Whereas if you have your own business that you are promoting, it becomes a whole lot easier to... Well, it's not easier, it's more difficult, but it becomes a lot more... it's a lot more ethical, in my opinion, I feel, because your reputation is on the line, because you are selling the product. It's your product, and you can't blame anyone else. It is your business, you know. And I very much believe in that. I think that's where it's going. So if you can adapt to that, then you'll do really well on social media, in my opinion. So what's the next question? What's the most lucrative platform for you and why? Oh, well, the most lucrative platform I'd say is Instagram. Even though I've got 650,000 followers ish on Instagram, and like I've got 1.1 on Facebook, 1.2 on TikTok. Like, even though those two have massive follower amounts, Instagram is just a lot more lucrative. One, I'd say because the brand deals, the brands and companies that want to use influencers to promote are much more comfortable with Instagram. That's probably their safe haven, because Instagram is a lot more business friendly if you're looking to sell stuff. TikTok isn't. And I have never, ever had a brand deal through Facebook or Snapchat. But yeah, Instagram is probably the most lucrative. Even though it doesn't pay you any AdSense, it pays you in terms of the brand deals that you get more money for less followers. Like, I will get more money for my Instagram, even though I've got 650k followers on there, than I will for my 1.2 million follower TikTok account. And the reason is because Instagram followers are, in the eyes of the advertiser, deemed more valuable than TikTok followers. And I can understand that, because TikTok is like, you're scrolling on your For You feed. If you follow someone on your For You feed, then like, it's not guaranteed that it's going to show you that back up again. Whereas on Instagram, if you're following someone on Instagram, the likelihood is when you're on your homepage and you're scrolling, you're most likely going to see them again, because that's the whole point of the algorithm. The algorithms are a little bit different. It's these little cultural and like micro details which make up the bigger picture. You know, if you know these details, it makes Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, TikTok, it makes them so much easier. One thing I would say is that even though I posted on TikTok at first, right? TikTok was my main account, and I didn't even bother reposting any of my content I was creating onto any other platforms for the first like year. So I was just posting TikTok. And then I got a year in and I was doing really well on TikTok, and I thought I should really be posting on these other platforms, but I just don't have the time. And I thought, wait, hold on a minute. Why can't I just repost my TikTok onto these other platforms? Because it's pretty much the same thing, you know. The algorithm is only after a few things, and all the algorithms are pretty much the same, especially now. They're pretty much homogenized. They're all pretty much the same. They're just after retention, topics, and a good hook. If you're wanting a summary of social media, that's it in those three. There's lots of other micro details, but they're pretty much the same. And so I started reposting about a year into being on TikTok, and it probably made the most business sense. you know, because by doing that, I expanded my reach massively, like tremendously, which then brought in a lot more brand deals because a lot more people were seeing me from different platforms. And so these businesses were looking to reach out. But because TikTok was my golden star, my golden goose, which had the most followers, every brand wanted me to post on TikTok. They weren't focused on the others. It's only now in the past 2 years after that that my Instagram is a lot more valuable. In fact, I found Instagram the most difficult to grow on initially. That was one of the most difficult ones to grow on. TikTok was a lot easier. Facebook was tremendously easy, but Instagram was kind of it was almost like beating a dead fish for ages, and then suddenly out of nowhere it just went like that. I can't even explain it. I was posting on Instagram for a year and I barely grew probably 1,000 followers, and meanwhile on TikTok I'm growing like 100,000 followers a month. And Facebook was going crazy on the same rate, and then Instagram's just like, I'm just plodding away, I'm barely getting any views, and then all of a sudden, just out of nowhere, I don't know whether the algorithm changed or whatever happened, I just posted, and then the views just started going just absolutely crazy, and I was like, okay, thank God for that. But I guess that comes down to consistency again, you know, keeping consistent no matter what is important. But still adapting, you know, still changing, keep making sure you're not banging your head against the wall for too long, and making sure that your strategy is working. I knew my strategy was working, I just didn't know why it wasn't getting results in the time frame. But eventually it worked out anyways, because I knew it was going to work. Also having a bit of confidence in yourself. How long did it take to start making serious money? Well, I mean, serious money, I'd say 2 years in for me. I'm on year 3 now. Year 2 was probably where the serious money started to come in, and I think that's, as I mentioned, was because I was posting on all the platforms, and so the reach was massive, monumental. But I'd say, you know, and this is something that I do regret, is if you're gonna post on social media or become an influencer, I really suggest that you don't give up the day job. You don't give up the part-time job, you don't give up college, you don't give up whatever. Whatever you're doing right now, keep doing that. Find time to do social media, because I'm telling you, there is enough time in your day to do it. If you're working a full-time job, just spending a few hours in the evening from 9 till midnight doing it it'll give you a leg up massively. Social media, in terms of short form content, does not take a lot of effort, and it does not take a lot of time. All that it takes is consistency. And so I would say keep the day job, and the reason I say that is the risk of losing that income that you've got just to pursue this as a career is going to ruin this. It's going to ruin the social media, because then the social media is your entire income source that you are reliant on, and your whole lifestyle is reliant on, and you need the money. You need money to survive. And as I've just mentioned, it's very slow. It took me 2 years to start making serious money, and I think you really need to bear that in mind. You are not gonna make loads of money overnight. You're not even gonna make loads of money in the first year. My first year on TikTok, I was making £100 a month, and that was about it. Like 100 Great British pounds a month, which didn't really cover much. And that was what TikTok was paying me. That wasn't sponsorships. That was the TikTok revenue. And I was getting about 10 million views a week. So it was like they were robbing me blind, but it was all good. The thing is that when TikTok started out, it was not sure how they were trying to pay people, because they were starting out as a company, so they didn't want to pay too much money. They're still pretty much the same now, to be honest, but I digress from that. The point of it is you should not be going into social media unless social media is making more money than your job or part-time job is, or whatever you are doing currently, because then you can abandon that and then go full-time on social media, and you know that that money is going to look after you, you know. And also, you've got to bear in mind when making money on social media, as I mentioned, it's fickle. Especially short form content, it is fickle. At the moment, it might not be in the future, but at the moment it is very, very fickle. And by fickle, I mean, like, you might get a brand deal 1 month and you might not get a brand deal for 6 months. And then suddenly that money that you made in that month, you are needing to stretch that really far. And I've had months where I've had to do that, where I've had a brand deal and then it's just gone dead. And I've gone, okay, well, that money needs to stretch a lot further. And you're kind of running off the good graces of another brand coming in your emails and going, hey, we'd like to work with you. So I would say serious money is not made until after 2 years. And bear in mind, if you think that you can do better than me, then fair play. But I was absolutely dedicated to social media from the moment I started. Like, every waking hour was doing content, constantly trying to improve. And I did succeed in that because I got as many views and followers as I could, but it didn't make a difference financially. It did not make a blind bit of difference financially. I would, if I was doing this again, I would have made sure that I maintained a side job or some kind of income alongside doing this, so that it was not as painful, because then you're not focusing on trying to extract money from your followers, which becomes quite a brutish thing. If you make this your full-time income and you're desperate for money, you then turn to your followers to try and make money, which isn't ethical, and it also stunts your growth. It kills your growth because no one wants to follow someone that's just trying to make money out of them. And so I'd say hold on to that side job so that you are letting your social media grow as much as possible organically, and then slowly start doing brand deals. Very, very slowly, like very slowly, gently going into it. But do not give up the day job. That would be the biggest thing I'd say as something that I've learned, a life lesson. And I'm lucky that I've gone through that and I've survived and it's all good. But it was quite a brutish period of time. It was quite a difficult experience to handle, because then you're kind of like, and I think I did an alright job of not going down that path of trying to extract money out of my followers, because I was like very conscious of that fact that I did not want to monetize this or go brutish with it. I was very gentle with the brand deals that I did when I did start doing the brand deals. Also, I would say another thing, if you're looking to become a social media influencer, don't be stupid about your brand deals. Like, one of the things that I saw was in some social media, some social profiles, some people were just posting ads that had nothing to do with whatever they were about, you know? Like, it'd be the equivalent of me, like, promoting a makeup line. Like, it didn't make sense. And I was watching people do this, and it not only is that terrible for your social media, but it's just not right. Like, people are going to look at you and go, well, why are you promoting this? Very clearly, you are all about the money, and you have no morals. That's what the audience sees. That's what your audience will see if you suddenly start doing something that's completely off-brand, a promotion completely off-brand, because then you're thinking, well, clearly they got the bag for that, and so that's why they're doing it, and that means that these people can be bought. And I don't think you want to be known as someone that can be bought. If you do, then fair enough, but most people don't want to be known as someone that can be bought. Can anyone make a full-time income from social media, or is there a secret to success? I mean, there is a secret to success, and that secret is work really hard and consistently. It's an open secret, but you got to work really hard and consistently if you want to make it a full-time income. But as I mentioned before, you can make a full-time income from social media, but it's going to take a long time. And it should take a long time, because if you get overnight success, that's going to crash and burn within 3 years. You'll have made it within a year and then crashed and burned within 3, and then you'll be completely lost. I'd rather have a slower ride up the mountain and then it exponentially get better and better than go straight up the mountain and then crash right back down, never to go back up again. That's what I'd say. You'd want to go slow when it comes to social media in terms of earning money. You can make a full-time income from social media. I am living proof of that. I am living proof of making a full-time income from social media. Don't get it twisted about the money though, because as I've seen, I watch TikTok just as much as anyone else. And so much nowadays on there is other influencers flashing their lifestyle, their very wealthy lifestyle. And I can honestly say that isn't me. Like, I don't have that kind of level of wealth or anything. But I think because of that, we think that is what being a social media influencer is having that level of wealth. And I think it is, but it takes time. It does take time, and it takes consistency and strategy. And if you think that is what this is going to be, you are sorely mistaken. Because you're only seeing the 1% of the 1%. So a lot of people won't get to that level of wealth on social media. Only a very finite people do. And those finite people then post about it, which then gets filtered down to the rest of us, which then makes us feel absolutely terrible. I can speak for myself, and I'm seeing other influencers that are popping off, that are making God knows how much money. And I'm thinking, damn, I've been doing this for 3 years now, and I'm not at that level. Like, am I doing something wrong? And it's not that. I'm just, comparison's the thief of joy, and that's what you're going to find in this industry. Social media is unbelievably a comparison game, and you need to be able to know that it's a comparison game and be able to disengage from that. I try my best to. Sometimes I fall for it, but I try my best to disengage from comparing. But social media is the worst for it. Even if you're not wanting to be an influencer, social media is the worst for comparing yourself to other people, and it just makes you feel bad about where you're at, even though the person that is posting about it likely isn't telling the full story. They may have the flashy cars, but they may be up to their eyeballs in debt just to be able to do that. Or the famous one that I think of is like a very rich and famous influencer that has all the cars, all the girls, the mansions, everything, and they're posting about it and showing off. They're probably comparing themselves to the family channel, where they've got a wife and kids, and they're just doing simple things as a family, and they're probably comparing themselves to each other. The family channel's probably comparing themselves to the rich guy with the Lambo and everything, and the rich guy with the Lambo is probably comparing himself to the family channel, because you'll never win at the comparison game, no matter what level you are on social media. Whether you're Z-list like me or whether you're A-list up there, you're never gonna get the best of it. So go into this purely on passion and purely on your interest. Don't go into it for the results, because you'll never be satisfied by them. Obviously they're beneficial, like having enough money and everything is great, it's awesome. But never chase the absurd stuff, just chase what you're passionate about. Post what you're passionate about, and then make money from that. That's my key to it, really. And it's taken me a while to get to that point, to be okay with the fact that no matter where I get to, I'll always be comparing. Even if I don't want what that other person has, I'll still be comparing. I'll be going, well, is that something I want? And most of the time it isn't. Let me have my Coca-Cola. What's the biggest financial risk you've taken since becoming an influencer? Well, this has something to do with my, I started a journal business. It's these financial journals that, like, they're called the Captain's Journal. I developed the product completely. It's this black financial, all black financial planner with white ink pen. It was awesome. Aesthetic, I love it. I absolutely love it. And I built that product back in 2022. Like I mentioned, I was building businesses to sell alongside my social, so that it kind of made sure that I had enough money every month. And I built this product, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. I really like this, and it was sold out. The bulk unit that I got sold out, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna expand. I'm gonna bulk order even more this time round, because clearly the demand's there, and it was the right move. It was a smart move to do. But in order to do that, I had to take out a loan, and boy oh boy was that maybe not the best decision. I took out a loan in order to be able to buy the expanded units, because I wanted to grow an exponential rate, because I thought, if I have more of these units, the less time the longer it will take for me to sell out, which means that I can in turn restock. It made sense. It made sense. And so I thought, right, this is a good financial decision. I will take out a loan and I'll buy a lot more units. Just turns out that I bought these units, and then my stupid, I don't know why I did this, but I got bored. I just was like, I don't want to do this journal anymore. And I don't know why it was. I genuinely, hand to heart, I don't know why I did it. But I was like, I bulk ordered them, I took out the loan. And as they were being shipped to me in my lovely office here, I was like, oh, I'm really not feeling the captain's journal anymore. And I was like, in my head I was thinking, wait, what? But you've just taken out a loan. And I was like, yeah, I just don't really want to vibe with it anymore. And it sounds really stupid, right? Because it's like, okay, what's the alternative? What's the what's the course that you could take right now? You could A, have them be finally delivered to you anyways, and then just sell them through and then have done with the captain's journal. Or B is let them be delivered to you and then do nothing with them. So I chose option B, which I don't know why I did that. It was such a stupid thing. I just couldn't bring myself to sell any more of them. And I was like, almost like, because I just don't understand. I'm trying to justify it even now, but I just don't understand it. I just don't understand where my mind was at. I think where my mind was at was, in order for me to sell the captain's journal so much, right? And this was what I was talking about social media before. I had to pretty much create a new promotional post every day. I had to post about it on social media every single day. Sorry, my nose is going. And so I was constantly flooding my followers' feed with promotions about the Captain's Journal. Buy the Captain's Journal because it does this, this, and this. And after a while, I was like, I just want to post content. I just want to post content. I don't want to be constantly trying to sell something constantly. I was just getting like sick of promoting it and creating a whole piece of content just to promote the journal, which was doing well, but then I also felt kind of guilty because I was like, but my followers then, they were wanting to see the content, they're not wanting to see the promotion. And I was kind of having a bit of a moral dilemma where I was like, well, I need to post about it to sell it, but then if I keep posting about it, it'll kind of create a disconnect between me and my audience. And so I'm like stuck between this rock and a hard place. And I was like, I could only promote it a couple times a week. But then I was like, I just can't be bothered. I just can't be bothered. And then I don't know why, but I just scrapped it. And then that loan that I took out, which I'm still paying back to this day, that loan that I took out still exists. And I ended up chucking the journals. It was the stupidest thing. I can't even justify it. It was the stupidest thing. I chucked the journals that I'd spent thousands on, and I could have just paid that back with the loan. But this is what I mean, like, I'll make stupid decisions. I will make stupid decisions, and that was a stupid decision that realistically I've learned from now. Thank God, I'd hope I'd learned from that. But I guess it can be a conflicting game, this social media stuff. It can be conflicting, because even if you are in a position like me where you really are in it for the content, but you know that you need to make money as well, it can be a moral dilemma sometimes, because you'll feel bad about promoting stuff, you'll feel bad about selling stuff, And that's something you have to deal with. That's something difficult with the industry. Some people have no quarrels about selling stuff at all. Clearly, some influencers really have no quarrels about selling stuff, but others really can't do it, and I couldn't bring myself to do it anymore. So yeah, that's another little tidbit there. Moving on from the money, we've spoken a lot about money. I'm going to talk about some of the challenges and rewards of this whole thing. Because there's got to be some challenge behind it, and there has been a lot of challenge. I mean, one of the questions is, what's the hardest part about maintaining a large social media presence? I think for me, it is the consistency with posting. With social media, short form social media, you're needing to post multiple times a day, and that can be quite taxing. It can be very, very taxing. It can lead to burnout quite a lot, and it's difficult to maintain that. When you're posting a YouTube video once a week, that can be easier to do, but with social media it can be a lot more difficult in that respect, because you are also constantly needing to adapt with the algorithm, especially when it comes to TikTok. TikTok is such a trend-based algorithm that if you're wanting to get views, if that's your goal on social media, to get views, which for most people is, if you're wanting to get views, you need to keep on top of the trends, and the trends change daily. But that's a micro one, but one of the hardest things about maintaining a large social media presence is when your own interests change. That's something I've been dealing with this year. It's been a long time coming, but I've been dealing with it difficult this year. Because if you're posting just about one particular topic or one particular thing, and you're doing that constantly, you get burnout from that topic, first of all. But also, if you're wanting to go into another niche or industry, you're wanting to expand out, it's very nerve-wracking, it's very stressful, because your followers know you for one thing, and you're trying to become more than just one thing. You're trying to become multiple things. And that can be difficult when you've got a large social media presence. When you've got a small social media presence, it doesn't matter. You've got 10,000 followers, you can change in an instant, and it will not make a difference. But if you've got millions and millions of followers that are very tuned into that specific thing that you've been doing, and then suddenly you're like, I'm going this direction now, it can be terrifying. In the risk there, the risks involved as well for your social media can be terrifying. And that's something I've been going through this year, because I've been mainly focusing on finance content and money related content. And even though I love money related stuff and talking about money and whatnot, it does grate on you. Like any topic, it does grate on you. And I never intended of becoming a finance influencer. Never intended in my wildest dreams. I went into it starting off with the finance topic, and then I just kept digging deeper and deeper and deeper, because I was just focusing on that, and I kind of lost the bigger picture, which was, I didn't want to go down this rabbit hole. I wanted to become this. I just wanted to start off with this, and then and I'd say, if you're starting out, you got to be careful that you don't rabbit hole yourself for too long, because you might not be able to yourself bring yourself out of it. For me, I've started to work up the courage of actually just bringing myself out of it. I love finance and money, and I'm happy to talk about them, but that is not going to be me. And for a lot of people, when they focus on one thing, they stay at that one thing. And then, I mean, you can probably see a lot of influencers now that have been doing the same thing for ages, and you're watching their content, you're like, damn, they're still doing that? And you look at them, and you watch the video or whatever, and you think, this person is not doing this because they like it anymore. They're doing it because they're making money from it, and that's the only way they can make money, is from this. And that's a terrifying position to be in, where you're forced as an influencer to be posting about things that you are so sick and tired of posting about, just because it's now your job and it's now your income. It's difficult, and so you need to be able to adapt to it, adapt and change. And I think that's the hardest part about maintaining a large social media presence, because if you start changing, there's the risk that your followers will go down, your views will go down, or whatever you're going into. But you've got to be able to brace that. You've got to be able to hit it head on and just tackle it. How do you deal with negativity and hate comments or online trolls? I've got an interesting story about this. I mean, back in 2022, I was posting, my Facebook was blowing up. Now, anyone that knows Facebook, it's predominantly an older demographic. And so I was reaching this older demographic, and I started getting this kind of like, these consistent hate comments in my videos by the same people. Like, I'd go on one post and it'd be the same hate comments by same people, like, oh, I hate this video, whatever. Scroll to another video, same people saying something different. It's like, okay, so they're going on every single one of my posts saying something hateful or whatever. And I was like, whatever. And then my girlfriend said, oh, there's a Facebook group hating on you. It's titled like NDA is a fraud, or he's wrong, or someone needs to stop him or something. And it was filled with all these people that were the commenters. And I was like, look, I don't really want to know about it. And she was like, do I have your permission if I go in there and see what they're saying? And I was like, yeah, you do whatever you want. And she went in there, and her friend went in there. And she was just telling me about it. I never actually looked at it, but she said that they were basically just chatting rubbish about me. It was like almost like a therapy group of all of these people, and I haven't even got to the best part yet. All of these people just chatting rubbish about me. Now the best part is, all of these people were well over the age of 60. Like, they were grandmas, grandpas, mothers, fathers. Like, these were elderly people that were hating on me. The 24-year-old kid that's just posting on social media, they were hating. And I was like, I found it slightly funny that this was the situation that it was getting into. Because I was like, wait, shouldn't these older people, like, know better? Like, shouldn't they realise that, like, come on, grow up a little bit? But anyways, this went on for a little bit, and then it went from funny to serious, because I wasn't giving any attention to them. I really wasn't, because I didn't want to give them any oxygen or anything. They started ramping up. They started escalating it. And they started trying to dox me. Like, they were taking Google screenshots of my house, my dad's business, my office. They're giving the specific addresses, and they were starting posting them in all the comments of my videos on Facebook. And I was like, whoa, this is not on. This is like, that for me, in my mind, I was like, this is completely out of bounds. They were doing it in the group, but I didn't know at this point. I was just seeing the comments, and I thought, okay, this has gone too far. Like, they are literally writing my address, they're showing a picture of my house or whatever, and they're posting that in the comments, and I'm getting thousands and thousands of views on these videos, so people are seeing that. And I don't generally block haters or anything. I like leaving that open, because everyone has their own entitlement to view my content and have their own opinion, even if it isn't a positive opinion. Because I found a lot of the times that people that post negative opinions will actually eventually come around and they go, oh, actually, I kind of like your content. And they go from hater to actually a fan. And so I never, ever block people. I only block bots or people that have crossed red lines. And that was a red line for me, where I was like, okay, this is gone too far now. And so I started blocking them. I didn't want to give them any airtime, didn't want to talk about the situation at all. I just wanted to block them, have done with it. And that was the end of that. But it kind of, at the time, it was a bit scary when that happened. But looking back, I was like, it's kind of stupid. When you actually think about it, it's actually just really stupid that these elderly people got so angry that me, the 24-year-old kid, posting on social media, riled them up so much. They took time out of their day to find out where I live, find out all these different addresses, and then go out of their way to then post them. And like some of the comments were like, "Oh, this is where he lives. Feel free to go pay him a visit." It's like so they were also inciting violence on me. I was like, these are elderly people. Like they should really know better. So yeah, I guess being an idiot isn't relevant to age. So you can clearly be an old idiot and a young idiot, but they were very much idiots because I don't know what they expected from that except me blocking them or whatever. But I was kind of surprised at Facebook for not doing something about it because I did report them for that, but they just said but as I blocked them, I reported them as well, and Facebook just went, "There's nothing wrong with this." I was like, okay, Facebook, whatever. You do your own thing then. But yeah, that was probably it. But when it comes to hate comments and negativity, I generally don't have a disposition for it. I'm cool with it. I don't pay too much attention to it. I thought it would be something quite difficult for me to handle. And I think it's something that a lot of people go into when they're thinking about starting social media. They worry about other people saying bad things in the comments or giving hate comments and things like that. And I have to say, that is social media in a nutshell. Like, people will just say whatever. And I think a comfort that I find, I ignore it, first of all. I don't bother even entertaining it. But I also realise that if this person was saying this to my face, or they came to me in real life, they wouldn't be saying it. They'd probably be really nice. You know, they're probably quite a nice person. Probably not the case for the elderly people. But in general, when people are saying something negative, they're probably, they wouldn't say it to your face in real life, you know? And so when I think about that and I see a negative comment, I think, this person's just saying it because they're behind a screen, you know? There's nothing substantial behind it. Not that I'm inciting anyone to make a real life situation for me, but it is it's just the game, and I think it's something that you don't have to worry about too much, personally, because I'm very sensitive and I can deal with it quite well. So I think most people can deal with it pretty well. Basically, just don't pay attention to it. Has it been difficult to balance your personal life and social media career? I'd say that was difficult for the first couple of years, because I didn't spend much time with friends or family the first couple of years. It wasn't until the second year where I was hitting these big milestones on social media, and I thought, I felt a bit empty inside. Like, I hit 1 million followers and I had a ramen here in this office, but I didn't feel anything. Like, I had a ramen as a celebration meal by myself. And I thought, this is a bit empty, you know? And I thought going into this social media, that would be my life. And it would be, all the accomplishments would be fulfilling. And in reality, a lot of the accomplishments weren't that fulfilling. It was actually more fulfilling to make a really good piece of content and know that people liked it. Like, they commented, "Oh, this is really cool," or it got really good engagement or whatever. But I never got any vanity. The vanity metrics, like the followers and the views, they don't give any intrinsic long-term happiness. It's kind of an empty happiness where it's a quick dopamine hit for a moment, and then you're like, back to it. And that's very much the game. So when I realized that, I was like, you know what really gives me fulfillment is spending time with my friends and family. I really want to spend time with them. And so after that, I was like starting to rebuild a lot of connections. Luckily, all my friends and family were really cool with it, because they knew that I was putting a lot of effort into this social media stuff. So they knew that I wasn't doing it out of malice. I was just focused. But when I started rebuilding those connections, it showed how important having a personal life outside of this stuff really is. This is not your life. Social media is not your life. Your life is your life. This is almost, in a way, you could see it as a job, career, or business. I'd like to see it as either a career or business, not as a job, so that you can separate it from your personal life, and so you can get a lot more fulfillment out of the other stuff. You still get fulfillment out of social media, don't get me wrong. There has been fulfilling moments. It's just not the fulfilling moments that I expected. I didn't expect that meeting people in real life was going to be more fulfilling than hitting 1 million followers on TikTok, which was something I was aiming for the whole time. I didn't expect to have these very minute things be more fulfilling to me than what's supposedly something meant to be massive. So I think when you realise that, and I don't think me telling you is going to make you realise it, I think you have to go through it yourself, because you'll probably hear that and go, no, I know my balance. But you really don't know how important having that balance between personal life and social media really is. So I'd emphasise that quite a lot. It's difficult to do, but once you've got it, you know how important it is. How do you stay consistent whilst managing burnout? I mean, the only way for me... How do you stay consistent with content creation whilst managing burnout? Right. I would say staying consistent on social media is about, one, passion. You got to love whatever you're posting about or doing. If you're posting about something just for the sake of money, or you're posting about something because it's trending or it's a trending topic or whatever, that is not going to last long. You're going to burn out quick time. I'd say you have to find something you're passionate about. Post about something you are really, really, really passionate about, that you really like, and that you can see you'll keep talking about it or posting or creating into the future. Like for me, finance and money, massive passion, and I did keep posting into the future. The problem being is that there is always an expiry date on that, because you can only talk about something for so long, so consistently. But even that, it still gives it a really long period of time. So you got to have passion, but you also got to have goals. Passion and goals. So if you have a goal that you've got in mind, that keeps you very, very consistent, because you're very motivated to keep going. And that was what kept me going. I was just determined to hit 1 million followers. Not realising that it would not be fulfilling, but that was my determination, to hit 1 million followers on TikTok. So how do I get to that goal? And I just kept ploughing ahead, keeping consistent, because that was what was required to get to the goal. And so just setting goals which you think will be fulfilling, or setting goals which work to an overall goal, it really helps having that. And I think if you don't have a goal, then you're going to be rudderless. You're just going to be not really doing much, posting maybe once every month and then leaving it for ages. Unless you've got a clear goal which aligns with what you want, then if you don't have that, you'll probably fail. It's all about setting the goal. What's been the most rewarding moment? The most rewarding has been meeting the people that I've been posting to but not seeing. So when I'm posting on social media and then someone's behind the camera, someone's behind the screen watching it. I didn't say that right. Basically, seeing people that like my content in real life going, oh, I really like that. That's the most fulfilling thing, really. Going, oh my god, there's an actual person here stood in front of me going, they like my stuff and they're being really sincere. Like, that's insane. And that's fulfilling, because it's like a human connection. This is not a human connection. No matter what anyone tells you, when you're posting on this, it is not a human connection. It is just posting into the ether, and other people might see it. But if you're fortunate enough, you might hit a few people consistently, and they'll go, damn, I like what that person does. And that is fulfilling. That really is fulfilling for me. Also for me, which is one of my own personal goals, which is fulfilling, is having a cultural impact. I mentioned this before in the video, but having impacts on communities, being part of a community online and then impacting it by the content I'm creating, is very, very fulfilling. And it's probably that's a personal goal, a personal thing for me. A lot of people don't feel that, but for me, that is something that drives me. But yeah, those are the most rewarding ones, really. Have you received any surprising opportunities because of your online presence? I mean, I got offered to go to a music festival in Thailand or something. It was a big, big, big music festival, and they offered me. They were going to pay me, but they were also going to pay for me to bring my girlfriend, and then also for me to all the transport and everything, and the accommodation, and all I had to do was go to the festival and record my experience. And I love music festivals, and so this was like an amazing opportunity. Unfortunately, it fell through, but that was a great opportunity. But I think most of the surprising opportunities have been the monetary ones, really. When it comes to brand deals, I got to work with Uber and NatWest, and a load of other big brands, and I thought, wow, I use these apps. I never ever expected to ever be collaborating with these big companies. Like, that's mad that they're seeing me and they're going, yeah, we want to collaborate with them. Those are the unsurprising ones, but they're financial, really, so I don't regard them as fulfilling, if that makes sense. What personal achievements are you most proud of because of your online success? I think personal achievements come from the confidence. I mentioned this before, but confidence, personal growth, in terms of, I've got this skill set now. Like, you could take away my social media and everything, but I now know how to make content that appeals to a large group of people. And so that's kind of a skill set that I'm proud to have. I don't know whether that's a personal achievement or not, but I guess a personal achievement would just be the confidence. I'm a lot more confident. I'm not the most confident in the world, don't get me wrong, but I'm more confident than I was before. That's for sure. Has social media influenced your overall happiness or personal growth? Definitely, definitely. Social media at times has been the making and breaking of me. There's been times when I've felt on top of the world because things are just riding in my direction. The content I'm posting is just hitting, and the strategies in my head that I'm putting into action are working. That's really been high moments, fulfilling moments, which have made me so happy when I know that my plan has worked, because a lot of plans don't work. But social media has also, as I said, had that emptiness where sometimes I've looked at it and I've gone, this just doesn't feel fulfilling, or this feels a little bit soul-sucking, spending so much time to make this content just to then do it the next day and the next day and the next day. Sometimes has felt very time-consuming, but also just, soul-sucking is probably the word I'd use. But the reason that is because that was before I had any balance between having a personal life and having this work life, because this was my personal life as well. This was just me, everything. And so it became a very vulnerable state. That's why I urge you to have a personal life, because without the personal life, it doesn't put the work life into perspective. It definitely doesn't put this into perspective at all. But it has been a net positive. And personal growth as well. It's just the amount of personal growth that I've gotten from this is tremendous. Now, this is the final question. If knowing what I know now, would I do this again? This is a very, very interesting one. Knowing what I know now, would I do this again? And the answer is yes. After everything, after the countless hours, after everything, I would do this all again. No repeats, no alterations. I would still do everything again. Because it's gotten me to this position now where, like I mentioned, I've learned this skill set on how to make some really good content. And I've built up this social media profile and this audience, which now gives me the opportunity to kind of go in loads of different directions if I wanted to. It's given me other opportunities. This micro opportunity has bred into this macro opportunity where I could just do whatever. I could start just solely focus on making a business. I could go into a different niche. I could diversify. Whatever I wanted to do, I could, because I'm at this place, and I would repeat that all over again to get to this place because it's a good place. And that was kind of the strategy. I lost it a little bit along the way, but I got there in the end. The strategy of getting from an idea to getting to the platform that I'm at, and then being able to just go off wherever I want to, in whatever direction I want to. And that's one of the biggest benefits of social media, is the platform. It's a double-edged sword, but if you use it right, it can yield some tremendous benefits. It can yield a lot of costs, but as long as you're wary of those costs, as I mentioned in this video, you'll be all right. You'll be all right. And remember, social media is not everything. And if you enjoyed this video, maybe consider hitting the subscribe button, especially if you've watched for this long. I mean, goddamn, if you've watched for this long, you might as well subscribe.